Wonderful. Welcome to this week's episode of Conversations That Count. I'm super excited to be joined with Grace here today from Holding Space with Grace. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. Long time coming.
Yes, I'm so excited about where this conversation is going and what will come up and all of the juiciness of the conversation as well. So firstly, you held an event over the weekend. So maybe we start there. So talk through Holding Space with Grace and what the event that you held in Brisbane, because it looked incredible of what you achieved. So well done as well with it.
Oh, thank you. It was definitely one of our most unforgettable, deep, expansive events that we've held to date. There was 75 women who came together and we made the event all around self-love and reconnecting to self. We guided each of the women through hypnotherapy, understanding the subconscious and the brain, through to guided meditation, breathwork, sound healing, and then wrapped it up with really an identity coaching session in circle at the end of the night. So it was an experience that just went deeper and deeper and deeper, and to just see these women unlock, connect, and have this time for themselves was a core memory in the holding space journey.
So what was your key takeaway from that particular day and the transformation that these women experienced as well?
Beautiful question. So for me, the biggest takeaway would have been that the modern world doesn't provide these spaces for women to connect to self, to pause, to reflect, and to shift. I truly could just see every single one of them walking through that door, how much they needed this, and to be able to be of service and to provide this space for them, and to sit in circle at the end of the night and hear their words of release, of feeling so seen, so supported, so connected, and to have them leaving in a completely different state from when they walked through. It just gave me such confidence in the work that we're doing.
It's so beautiful. And we spoke briefly about beforehand about the experience as well, is because you can go to events like this and it's so information heavy, yet you don't want to think about it. You just want to go there and have an experience and to let go and not necessarily say words as well. You just want to be like, I'm here, let's breathe, or I'm here, let's go through the hypnotherapy or whatever it might be. It's such a different experience. So what led you to more the experience-based? Because you do both too, don't you?
Yeah, not only having the women to be reconnected to self, but to also be resourced. I think there's a lot of really inspirational events or aha moments that you can get, but for me I want them to come and to not only experience the knowledge and have an embodiment of the knowledge, but then to also leave with their own toolkit to then take aligned action once the event is over, because that's how you can truly help these women and to really shift their reality. And so that's a really key part, because we only retain 5% of the knowledge when we're listening to a podcast or a book, unless we write it down and then we remember it. But when you have somebody in a space where they're learning and applying that in community, where they're having an emotional response to the information, applying it in real time and then sharing it with their neighbor, that's how you really embody it. And for me, we don't have unlimited time, and if I want to provide the greatest value and to really help people to shift their realities, then I believe this is the way that you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. What's you said reconnection to self. What does that mean to you, and what does that mean?
Reconnection to self, we are living in one of the fastest moving, noisy, overstimulated worlds, and women don't have that time to pause, to go inwards, to connect with their intuition, to understand what's on their heart, what do they want, and what do they need. And that pause and that reflection and that relationship with self is your North Star. And I think there's a lot of people in this world that are struggling to know what direction to go in, how they're lacking confidence, they're lacking in self-worth, and they're feeling a lot of fear. And that is because there's a disconnect to self. And so a big part of my mission is to bring them home and to help them remember their innate power, and to give them the tools and the resources, and to give them the community that helps them be mirrors of themselves. And, you know, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Like, these spaces are filled with hundreds of women who are so dedicated to self-inquiry and to making positive change in their lives and to supporting one another. And you just see that in the community. It's beyond just, there is that connection to self, but then there's the women who have your back, who help you integrate the knowledge after. And, you know, we're so isolated. And so that the experience is really talking to the whole self. And so the community have a huge part in that as well. So it's an environment that is really rare to find. And I feel just deeply responsible to provide these spaces for the modern woman.
And you're creating it as well, right? And I think spaces like this are so important because as women, like, it's ingrained in us at such a young age that we can be and do it all. And so we go through life and thinking, okay, we have to do it alone at the same time. And spaces like this is an opportunity for then women to come and actually be supported by other women and to let go of whatever is coming up. They might not even know. They're like, fuck, something's going to change here. I need to do something. What is that something? And then, you know, find spaces like what you've created and then like, okay, I'm just going to go along to here. What's this? And then they connect on a completely different level with yourself or the other people in the room as well. And then there's that bond. And then they're like, yeah, there is something more here for me. And how do I get more of that out of me at the same time?
You are so correct. And that for me is the modern woman, and the role of her in the family dynamic has changed astronomically, and society hasn't met that modern woman. And so what was once a full-time role of looking after the children and the house, which made perfect sense if you now see that women are working to there has to be a dual income in the household. So all of these responsibilities and this pressure have now been put onto the modern woman. And not only that, we're living in a overstimulated environment where a modern woman her stress levels are triple what they were 100 years ago. And as a result of that, she is sitting in a state of fight or flight regularly. And then we haven't adapted to providing the tools, the resources, and the support that the woman needs. And so that's what you talk to about is, the conditioning. Yes, there's the conditioning and feeling alone, but this woman now has got triple the role in the family dynamic. And unlike the male dynamic, there hasn't been an evolution like there has been for the modern woman. And so it's really, I just look at it for mothers especially, how isolated they feel. And traditionally, our primal nature is that we grew in community. We looked after each other's children. We would, all do healing and helping and co-regulate each other's nervous systems. And we would release oxytocin when we were in community. And now you've got the modern woman more isolated, more under pressure than ever before. And we've taken away the tribe and we've taken away the support system. And then we wonder why she's crying in her car when, she's going home after getting the groceries because she's just so overwhelmed. But she should do better. It's on
pressure.
Her. So it's too much pressure and we need to do something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's very much in a doing mentality, right? And I've been guilty of this in the past at the same time. Is like, okay, I wake up at this time, I go here, I do this, tick, 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 tick. And then as women, we forget that there's also the being. And it's when you are being, that's when you tap into your intuition. That's when you listen to whatever is happening for you at the moment, whether that's that internal dialogue or that you need to change and you're like, okay, well, how do I change? How do I move? And it's creating that space and that silence for you to actually get the answers as well. And when you're doing constantly, yes, like I've got to go here and that external pressure that you just mentioned, it doesn't allow space for that at all. So when you have dedicated time, like as you said, over the weekend, you can just go and be. I don't have to do anything. I can just rock up and you're taking care of me.
Absolutely.
Which is great.
Yeah. And, I asked that for you. You've left a male-dominated industry and now gone on your own as a female entrepreneur. And I'm sure there's, been such an identity shift in going through that. And then also there is the reality of, okay, so I've left this to go after my dreams, but if you aren't doing the podcast or you aren't around the expanders or the mentors, it can be extremely isolating.
Yeah.
And I just would like you to speak to, as probably, someone who attends the events and who is someone that we would work with to welcome in. How have you navigated this new landscape?
It's a really great question and a big question at the same time. And I think it's just feeling everything and then just still moving and leaning into the discomfort of it all. And I was so ingrained in living a particular way. And, as I said, like I was doing the tick, tick, tick of, the career, the house, the partner, like all of that stuff where you grow up thinking that that's how you're going to live life. And I remember, in my early 30s going, what is this? This is not for me at all. And it's taken me a long time to actually go to places like yours and others and just start to figure out, like, what is that? And you peel back the layers and you start to listen to that internal voice to go, do you know what? This path isn't for me. And it took me a while to actually leave the corporate space for other reasons at the same time. And now navigating all of that is just, as you said, like surround yourself with people that are on the same path as you. And there's so many different paths, and it's just trying to find the people that inspire you and are one step in front of you, and you learn from each other, and you've got that support network as well. Because when you're going through change, the biggest thing for you is environment and the people that are around you. And if you don't have that support network set up, then you'll have people, I want to say, hold you back, and that's not the right words, but do you know what I mean? Like, environment plays such a big part. So if you want something different, start putting yourself in different environments.
Can I get you on the promo? I'm like, that is literally so perfect for truly...
We can cut that part for you if you like.
Okay, good. I like that.
Yeah.
It just is, environments are everything, and who you surround yourself with, and you're the median of the 5 people. And I just want to honor you for being brave, because what happens and keeps so many people in fear is that there's no one around them showing them the light forward, and there's no one around them rallying or, giving them evidence that if they keep going that this is possible. And you have to seek that out, and then the path becomes illuminated. And it doesn't need to be as hard when, you put yourself in silo to try and make these shifts. And so that's the power of community, and it's the power of what we're creating here. And it's so beautiful to hear how you knew that early on, like you put yourself in the rooms, and you may have held back on leaving corporate, but you were putting yourself in the rooms before you left, which gave you the inspiration to do so.
Exactly right. And it's actually what's inspired me to create change, is because I have been in that environment for such a long time, and I've seen how it is, and especially being in a male dominant environment for a female as well, that there are certain challenges, and I don't believe that, you know, leaders or necessarily team or companies really support that well. And it's, as I said, like, I'm like, there's something missing here, and I started going externally. Then I was like, okay, there's the gap there. And that's what's prompted me to actually create the corporate company as well, to go back into corporate to create change that way as well.
You in love with this concept, and something that I'm so passionate about, because that's why Holding Space was created. I was 4 years in property, male dominated industry, and I was seeking the resources and the answers and the support, because I knew that something wasn't right and that this couldn't be it, and it didn't exist. And I thought, if I'm sitting here broken trying to figure this out on my own, how many other women are sitting there in the same position seeking exactly what I'm seeking? And if I didn't have that, you know, on my knees moment, then I wouldn't be here today, because it was what ignited the fire.
So what was that moment for you? So like what was that moment that you got to a point you're like, do you know what, something needs to change?
I was in property and was following what I thought success was. It was the exact similar story to you. Had a great partner, living in Melbourne, in property, successful, growing really high in my real estate career. And I remember sitting around a table, and it was our weekly forecasts where we share, you know, what our projections are for the month. And that month I'd been mentoring. I had worked with several, you know, family businesses to help them find their own leases, and had been going above and beyond with really passion, purpose-led work outside of my role. And I remember the table, and it was, okay, so say your name and what your revenue is that you're forecasting for the month. And it just dawned on me that, you know, our value as a person at that company only came down to a figure. And then when I looked behind the people who were bringing in the most revenue, or what I was aspiring to have, there was many facets of their life that was sacrificed: health, relationships, spirituality, you know, leadership, philanthropy work. Like, there was all of those things weren't a value, and they were a value of mine. And then something really toxic happened to me in that work environment. And that was the moment where I said, what am I doing with my life? Why am I giving this organization, you know, my heart and soul, when I'm just a number? And when it comes down to it, they're not going to protect me or, you know, treat me like a human. So that was the start of
The catalyst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was also, for me, whilst I was in that toxic environment, I was seeking out these community events and, you know, women in leadership and business seminars, because I thought, okay, I'm struggling here. Where do I go to? And that was when I was attending them and leaving feeling more isolated, lacking the knowledge or the tools or the real conversations. And so the myriad came together at this, you know, apex, when I had this, you know, unfortunate situation happen where I just walked out with I was a woman on a mission.
Sometimes it's like, that wake up call, isn't it? To say, do you know what, this isn't for me. I want something different. And then it's like, okay, this is where I feel like sometimes it's hard. It's like, I know that there's something different. I want something different. What is that? Because you don't know anything else than that environment that you were in as well.
Yeah, we're best positioned to serve our younger self. And oh my goodness, you know, this was what I wish I had in my 20s, to go to this space where there was inspiring thought leaders giving me real world knowledge, helping me make decisions based on what's best for me and who I am, and the tools and community. I just think, what a gift to be able to have that earlier on than, you know, to have to be conditioned by society on what success looks like, what our job should be, like our schooling system. Like, it's so outdated.
What was your journey from that point to now creating Holding Space with Grace?
Well, I did what any normal woman would do, and I burnt my whole life to the ground. So I moved from Melbourne, and my partner then and I separated. I was 30, and I had started working out holding space in the background, and then I moved to my brother's spare room in LA with his family, and just went through this whole self-discovery period where I sat with, how can I help women who are sitting in similar situations to what I am? And I just refined it. I think I did 2 events to begin with, and then from there I really took the time to really finesse what I wanted to create. Every event started with a meditation or a breath work before I went into the theory, because I learned so much about the subconscious, and that you won't only be able to receive the information based on where your nervous system is in that moment. So I was integrating this journey. The events became, they were 5 hours long, and it would be nervous system reset, working with the subconscious, giving them modalities to help them come into peace and to go into their parasympathetic nervous system. And so it was a really it became a focus about almost like a half-day experience, because I knew that's how you truly move the needle.
So what made you want to create this space rather than going to other people's spaces?
Great question. So for me, when I was attending these other events, I felt more disconnected and uninspired than when I'd walked in. The women were sitting around tables with name tags. We were staring at a stage for 3 hours, and then there was a cold breakfast in front of us in a dark boardroom, and it was here to inspire us to go with the way forward and give us the tools for change and connect us with sisterhood and all these things that I was getting marketed to. And then I'd go there and I just was like, is this a Ponzi scheme? What's going on? It was really incongruent with what we were being sold these event spaces would provide us. And so that was my mission. I just couldn't believe that this was the only spaces that were available for women. And, this was almost 3 years ago. So the evolution has been huge, and that has significantly changed. Have you ever attended any events like that?
I love that you said that, because how I met you, maybe we haven't even spoken to this. So I'm big on personal development. I just want to be the best version of me ever. And I know with that comes personal growth, always stepping outside my comfort zone and just learning, absorbing and applying as well. And everything I learned, that's what then I teach others as part of my coaching, right? And you popped up somehow on Instagram, and I was like, oh yeah, this looks like a great event. I'm going to go to it. I came by myself. I was like, you know what? I'm very comfortable in doing things by myself, because I feel like by me showing up, it makes me step outside my comfort zone and actually meet new people. And I came to your event last year, and straight away you greeted me and you gave me this massive, big, warm hug, and you were just so warm and inviting, which was incredible. And then the whole night was very intentional. And what I mean by that is even with when you're meeting people for the first time, it can feel a little bit awkward. Hi, how are you? There's a little bit of shyness, and there were the connection cards. So it opened up new conversations straight away, rather than talking about how's your week been? Surface level conversations. It opened it up to new connections and deep connections straight away, which you might not have had. And then throughout the night, you had some really inspiring guests come on as well, which was great. But then also you did the connection. So it gave you created a space for people actually to meet new people and to network with new people that they might not have necessarily come across. And it's okay, how can we support each other in this space as well? And so I think you had something there where it's hey, this is who I am, this is what I need, and hey, this is who I am, this is what I offer. So again, it's creating a different style of connection through that as well. And that's what I really loved about your space. And I've only you know, out of all the networking events I've been to, I think that's the one that has really stood out to me from a connection perspective.
I love that feedback. It's so lovely to hear because, yeah, when you're in it, when I don't hear the takeaways or the different experiences that really hit home.
So you've created this like incredible space for women to come so you can support and guide them through whatever it is that they need to move through. Like, how has this work changed you on a personal level at the same time and help you to grow into the person that you are?
Such a beautiful question. I have so much gratitude for the spaces that we create because they are the catalyst for so much of my own personal development. And I find that for me, particularly right now, it requires so much from me. I'm a one-person band. I have a tiny team and we're growing at a rate that can have a lot of fear, a lot of pressure, a lot of angst. And especially after these events, there's so much communication after the community. And so then it doesn't really end after the event. And so for me, there can be the aftermath that requires so much energy and focus when I can be burnt out. So the tools for me are what allow me to get back into the arena and to keep holding the space whilst also protecting my own. And that looks like I try to find the pockets of peace, my breath, you know, working with hypnosis, having meditation, and taking those moments out in between the pressure cooker is crucial. And then to be surrounding myself with so many inspiring founders, also learning through their journeys allows me to have my own guidance and my own mentoring. But out of everything, it's the mission and the purpose. It's so much bigger than me. It's not for me. And I feel such a responsibility to give back to these women. And so it almost dissolves those pressures or that resistance because I just know I have to move and that this is what's needed. And I feel a moral responsibility to keep pushing forward. It's a blessing and a curse.
It's such a great reflection because I feel like when you're doing something that you're passionate about and you feel like you're giving back and it's purpose-led, it's like you get energy from that and you're like, I can keep going because I know the impact that I'm creating and the ripple effect that I'm creating at the same time. And it just gives you so much more drive to keep moving. What is your greater mission? Like, what is it that you've got the events and the day retreats and like multiple day retreats. Like, what is that end goal for you and what is that long-term vision and mission that you're wanting to create?
It's big, and it's really to have a place of healing and hope and inspiration and safety for the world. And so that looks like working with nature and having, a 7-day operation where mothers can go there when they're, burnt out or seeking to be surrounded by support or receive the tools for their own nutrition and their own mental well-being and their own physical well-being. And for founders to go there and to collaborate and to connect, and for people to understand the science of their brain and how their thoughts create their reality, and to learn about that so they've got the tools to, really evolve and feel in control of their own human existence. And without knowledge, we don't know how. And the biggest thing for me is healing, knowledge, empowerment, safety, and community, and to have a space that people can come to all year round, depending on what their need is or the problem that they're facing or what they're desiring, that I can facilitate that for them.
So if I'm someone that's listening to this and thinking, I'm like everyone that you just mentioned, like I'm feeling burnt out, I'm feeling stressed, so I don't have, I don't know what my next step is. Like, what's 3 tips that you would give them that has helped you in the past as well?
Beautiful. For me, it has been going inwards and peace and finding that spaciousness, because that high level of stress and cortisol can come from, over rumination and sitting in that pressure that you're giving yourself as a response. And so removing yourself from that environment, getting quiet, going inwards, giving yourself the opportunity to self-regulate and asking yourself those questions. What do I need right now? What could make me happy? Where am I self-sabotaging? Where is a disconnect? The answers are all within you. And it's not in the podcast, it's not in the biohack, it's not in, doing the self-help inspirational conversation for a minute. It's internally. And so that would be my first advice. The second would be find an expander. Find somebody who is living, doing, whose mission or work is something that you're really inspired to have and drawn to, because that helps illuminate the path forward for you, and you're able to see that it's possible for them, it's possible for you. And the third thing would be surround yourself with like-minded people.
Yeah, it's a big one, isn't it?
Huge one.
Yeah.
And, connection is everything. We are hardwired to connect, and we are more disconnected from self and disconnected from each other.
So aren't we? Yeah. And you really notice that, don't you? Like when you're in this space, you just realize how many people are disconnected from who they are, what they want, and it's so important.
And that's exactly to the point of the first point, which was to find the space. It's that if you're constantly consuming and you're constantly on your phone, you're constantly headphones in, or like, how are you going to receive the wisdom or the information or to understand what you truly need from the inside? And so that's where the space comes out. It shouldn't be a luxury anymore, but it is.
Yeah.
People are just so overstimulated with information.
Yeah, really are. And I think the key part that you mentioned there as well is around nervous system regulation. And I know for me, like before I started this work, I wouldn't have a clue what that even meant, because like it's so normalized that stress and anxiety is just a part of life, where your nervous system is always speaking to you and it's creating that space to actually listen to it because it's giving you a message. So stress isn't normal. Anxiety isn't normal. Overwhelm isn't normal. And when I say, yes, there are levels that you need to have to give you drive to do things, yes. But if it's your everyday status quo in a sense, then no, like you should be listening to that and figuring out, okay, what's the underlying root cause there as well.
It's so exactly. We've got Anthea Todd coming on to the retreat next weekend, and she's doing a body system decoding and teaching us like how our body speaks to us and what those messages are.
Yeah.
And she's like, this is the work that we all need to have in, our schooling system and our day-to-day lives. And so, yeah, you're so right on the importance of the nervous system. If anything, I would say it's number one. And if you asked what I think makes, a successful entrepreneur or mother or daughter or friend, it's somebody who's able to self-regulate and to be able to regulate your emotions and to be an observer is what brings you true peace in this world.
What's one of the best pieces of advice that you've ever received?
Ooh, great question. You have the power to change. You have the power to change any part of your life. Like, you are the controller. And so many of us feel as, we're just constantly reacting instead of creating. And I think helping people to understand their potential and that they can change their circumstances and their relationship to self or their inner critic or, their jobs or their relationships, you can change that. You have the power to change that. And so I think that is so simple, but it's so misunderstood.
Oh, it's so powerful though, right? It's like, okay, what's in my control? And do I have the ability to change this? And if I have the ability to change it, I get to decide to change it. And then when I get to decide, it's like everything else kind of appears at the same time. And yes, you'll go through moments of, self-doubt and all of the things that go through with change. But it's like, okay, what's on the other side of that? And is it worth it in comparison to where I am now? And so like have that as your deciding factor at the same time.
I love how you just articulated that, because it's also, I'm no longer suffering. I'm not the victim. And that's what I think is so empowering, to go out of, well, this is just how it is. No, it's not just how it is.
Do you know, one thing I hate is when people say that's just the way they are and that's just the way it is. And I cringe at those two things, because people aren't their behaviours. They're just doing the best that they can with the resources that they have. And so when people accept people's behaviour because that's just the way that they are, it's a cop-out. And every single person has the ability to change who they are if they want to.
The desire has to be there.
Yeah. You can change your circumstances and your situation if you want to. Yeah. And so, like that's something that, we all have that same ability to create change. You just have to have that want and that desire and to actually do it.
What are you desiring at the moment?
So much.
Yeah.
I have a lot going on, if I'm being completely honest, in terms of where I want the podcast. So I really desire that. And I desire that because I love conversations like this. I love connecting with people, and I get inspired by people doing incredible things, because again, it's showing me what's possible. And that's one of the intentions behind the podcast as well, is that there's so many incredible people doing incredible things, and I want to share that message as well. Then also with the corporate coaching, I really desire to create change in the corporate workspace, because I come across with so many entrepreneurs and business-minded people that leave the corporate space because they don't like that environment and it's not a fit for them. Yet if you have a look at the skill set that's required to be a successful business person or entrepreneur, why not create a space in corporate that supports that? Because they're awesome skills to have, and it will drive your business even further. But people leave because of leaders, toxic workspaces that you mentioned before, where if you create change there, then people are going to be happier in their workspace. They will want to work harder for you at the same time, and they'll want to work more with people in that collaboration as well. So I really desire to create the change there as well. And for me, just to be the best version of me. And I know that probably sounds a little bit, like, oh yeah, everyone wants that. But I'm always wanting to lean into growth for myself. And when I have conversations that I don't believe they went as according to plan, or something came up or I'm a little bit triggered, I lean into that at the same time. I'm like, okay, where's my growth there? And so I just desire that so much, is just to have this purposeful and fulfilled life and be surrounded with people that I'm inspired to be better and want to be better with as well.
Yeah, Peter Crone says, life will present you with the people, circumstances to help you discover where you are not free. And it's so powerful.
It really is.
Yeah, and that's curiosity. I think that's a beautiful place to be, and that's somebody who has a personal growth mindset. And that's the difference, I believe, from somebody who's stuck and somebody who leans into it as self-discovery and curiosity. Yeah,
curiosity is such a beautiful word, right? How great would it be, like, we all meet each other in curiosity?
Yeah.
And how much more freeing that would be, and the different levels of conversations that you would have.
Curiosity and compassion. There's more heart in this world. That's a big thing, is we're really becoming a more head-focused environment, and we need to bring more heart into it.
Yeah. Get out of your head and into your heart.
Yeah, there's more pieces of information going up to our brain than there is from our brain going to our heart. Yet we live in a world that, asks us to shut down our heart and think with our head. So it's just, there's an awakening happening where it's more time to go inwards and to stop living by society's way of theory instead of intuition.
And I think that comes back to your earlier point as well. It's creating the space for yourself to be in silence, or whatever that looks like for you. So then you actually are out of your head and into your body, and actually you're connecting to your heart and what messages are coming through for you at that particular time.
Absolutely. I love that.
I think when you start to become more self-aware and you start to increase your conscious awareness, you notice it in other people, at the same time, and you notice that there's more of a shift. And I believe like younger generations are definitely changing in comparison to what it was like a couple of years ago. What's your thoughts on change at the moment, or the conscious awakening or awareness that's happening?
It's a beautiful question. I feel so passionate that there's a time where it's not just about knowing, it's about knowing how. And it's a moment where we have to have the right information about ourselves and what's best for our well-being and who we are and what we need, because we can no longer rely on external sources or figures to look after our healthcare, our home life, our bodies, what we're consuming, education system, corporations, and that is being displayed to us. And so it's a moment where we have to seek out to understand what is best for self and equip ourselves with the knowledge and the resources so that we can have our own autonomy. And I think really it's about providing spaces of light, of hope, of joy, of inspiration. And for me, that's needed more than ever.
So how do you equip yourself with those tools and resources?
For me, the big one of that has been understanding about the brain and my nervous system and how to self-regulate, and understanding, patterns and behaviors that were maladaptive, protective mechanisms when I was younger. And if I want to change, it's understanding safely how to go there and to dissolve the memory and then have it as wisdom, and then to be able to show up as my best self. And for me, with nutrition and what does my body need, and looking at motherhood, okay, if I want to keep working and holding space and step into motherhood, well, this is actually what's available to me to support that. How am I going to operate a business and be a mother? What does that look like? What is currently on offer for mothers and who are entrepreneurs? Oh my God, that is a whole purpose-led mission for me, 100%. So a lot of that has been, what can I do to become the best version of myself, and what can I do to allow these resources and this knowledge to help equip other women to be creators and in control of their life, and not to be influenced or to be in fear and reliant on external parties.
So great that you said all of that, and I feel like it comes back to the curiosity piece, right? Just get curious with everything that happens in your life, and what's one way of doing something that might have worked in the past might not be the best way for you now, and it's okay to get curious with that and lean into that as well and ask questions.
What's been the modality that's helped you so much through your current evolution?
The biggest one for me is breathwork and mindset, 100%. And I mean, that's what my business is surrounded by as well. I have done like lots of different modalities because like I'm super intrigued by the mind, the body, how it all works as well. And, I lean into whatever is coming up at the same time or whatever's around me. But 100% the biggest transformations I've experienced in my own growth would be coming from breathwork and also mindset. So through NLP, they're the biggest things for me.
And what is a block that you're currently trying to work through?
The biggest thing for me, and I did a solo episode of my podcast about this yesterday, it's like I know that I'm on the right path and in the right direction, and I still have this sense of I'm holding myself back still, like I still fully haven't stepped into it. And so for me, it's like, okay, I need to have a voice, and what does that look like? That's what I'm still working through at the moment. And I've always been a quiet achiever. I've always just like done things in the background and like, okay, cool, I'm going to go do this now. And for me now, it's actually about having that voice and sharing that as well, because how many people were in the same position or are in the same position and actually can learn through my experience as well. And so that's the biggest thing for me. And yeah.
What's one thing that's like the greatest advice that you've ever received?
It comes back to, I think, change as well. Like it's in our, like, as you said, that's such a big thing, is that there's nothing permanent in this world, and you can always change. Whatever your situation, your circumstance, the people around you, there's always ability to change. You just want to, like, have to want to. Yeah, that's the biggest piece. I feel like we've gone down so many different paths with the podcast and the questions as well. So I feel like we could talk for a very long time on different things. I appreciate you really taking the time and coming in today and sharing your passion so much. And I know after coming to one of your spaces and also seeing the success that you had over the weekend, that I'm excited to come to something again of yours as well, and excited that there's people like yourself that are actually creating this space, beautiful spaces for women to come to as well. So I'm super excited where it all leads.
Thank you. Yeah. That was such an authentic and just generous compliment. And for you too, you know, you're walking through the fire, and, you know, you're doing this to help others through using your voice and your own lived experience. And this is the ripple effect of positive change. Yeah. And so I just want to honour you. And this was beautiful. Thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you. Yay, I'm excited.